He really has the feeling of the last days of Elvis at Vegas, like just wearily cranking out the greatest hits. He is in such worse shape than he was this time 8 years ago.
As the final hours for the battle for the White House and the two candidates remain absolutely neck and neck, Kamala Harris is set to spend the last day of the campaign in the hotly contested swing state of Pennsylvania, where Donald Trump spoke last night, making reference to his first assassination attempt as he took aim at the media.
I have a piece of glass over here, and I don't have a piece of glass there. And I have this piece of glass here, but all we have really over here is the fake news, right? And to get me, somebody would have to shoot through the fake news, and I don't mind that so much.
Yeah, shooting journalists. Fun, fun, fun. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris broke from the campaign train over the weekend with a surprise appearance on the TV variety show Saturday Night Live.
Now, Kamala, take my Pamela. The American people want to stop the chaos
and end the drama
with a cool new stepmamala. Kick back in our pajamas and watch a rom Kamala.
like Legally Blondula.
And start decorating for Christmas. Fa la 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 la. Because what do we always say? Keep Kamala and carry on a la.
Hadley Freeman, you're American after a fashion. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling better than I was this time last week. The polls are looking positive for those of us who support Kamala. I've already voted, although I vote in New York, so I may as well just throw my vote in the sea, to be honest. Just listening to that speech from Donald Trump there, he really has the feeling of the last days of Elvis at Vegas, like just wearily cranking out the greatest hits. He is in such worse shape than he was this time 8 years ago. It's really quite striking.
Do you mean physically or politically?
Physically,
right.
But also in the swing states, the polls over the weekend showed Kamala edging ahead. So fingers crossed for, she says, no more dramala.
I feel I'm also in worse shape than I was this time 8 years ago. But Patrick, when you look at the US election, the cycle, but the campaigns, the drama of it, the I don't know, the adrenaline of it, do you think that's not how politics should be done, or are you full of envy?
I'm sort of slightly full of envy for colleagues who found spurious pretexts to go to America for a fortnight at a time. It's been my main reflection the past 2 weeks. Look, I mean, in a way, it's no different. Look, it's like politics here, but bigger, right? You know, you look at Keir Starmer on a non-league football pitch somewhere in what we used to call the Red Wall in June and July. And actually, that is no different from Kamala or Donald Trump or Tim Walz or whoever flying into, Charleston or somewhere in Pennsylvania and addressing 30,000 people. You know, it's just a question of scale.
It's a bit different. Yeah.
Well, yeah, obviously, in the first is,
Yeah, but it's not like we're Belgium. You know, we're a country of like sort of 70 million people. We shouldn't have to settle for non-league football matches in exchange for a sort of American football stadium, should we?
I think there's maybe a happy medium, maybe League One Championship. I don't know.
Do you think, Patrick? Look, I mean, what's your expectation? Are we going to get an actual verdict when the polls close, or do you think this is going to sort of drag on in sort of dissent? And
well, look, there are two outcomes I think that are. I'm sort of thinking of one of two outcomes now. The first is that the sort of polls, like we saw, like Ann Seltzer's in Iowa over the weekend, are true, and that actually there's a chance that Kamala Harris wins by a margin nobody expected, or we revert to what we've expected for a long time, which is that there are a couple of thousand votes in this in, Pennsylvania and Georgia and other places, in which case we're going to be hearing Donald Trump moan for a very long time. Although obviously we're going to hear Donald Trump moan for a very long time, even if the first scenario is true. But yeah, I think looking at all the data and speaking to the very few people I know who are admittedly working on the Harris campaign, they are very optimistic, which is striking, because that's not how the mood music, at least the mood music that's audible from here, felt about 3 weeks, a month ago.
No, I think that's right. Like, Jim's been in touch. He says, I voted in North Carolina, quite possibly one of the most powerful votes ever cast. So I guess that's a sort of very marginal swing state.
Hadley, when you vote from here, where do you do it? Do you go to the embassy?
No, I get a postal vote.
What?
Yeah, it's a paper vote.
Wow.
Yeah, and you have to send it in, and you can trace your vote. It's all done. You just log
Like by
into your
registered
account
post. Wow.
on Democrats abroad, and you trace it.
Are we allowed to do that here if we're no longer resident in the country? We're allowed to vote in where we're sort of basically from?
Yeah, the Tories changed it's one of their little notice changes to electoral law. It used to be you had to have a UK address within 15 years. Now you can do it forever.
Right, wow. Yeah,
In your last registered UK address.
Yeah, okay. Well, look, Times Radio's John Pienaar was also in Pennsylvania. He'll be bringing you Drive there all week from the US, and he was speaking to Trump supporters as they filed in who thought there was massive cheating going on in Pennsylvania. Listen.
I believe it. It's happening again as we speak with early voting. Polls, people turned away, not being able to click on Trump's name. Yeah, it's happening again.
Hadley, help me make sense of this, because we have conspiracy theorists here in Britain, and indeed all of us are susceptible to the right conspiracy theory at the right time. In America, it seems to be at least half the country, and indeed more than half the country, because the sort of Democrats have their own conspiracies, albeit not quite as mad.
Yes.
What's going on there?
Well, I do think America as a country is quite prone to conspiracy theories. This has been the case certainly since 1963 with the Kennedy assassination, and then the moon landings, and then on and on and on. I don't really know why, because it's not like America is lacking in religion. So there are plenty of wacky things for people to believe without resorting to conspiracy theories. And at this point, there is, we can all knock certain elements of the British media and knock things like the BBC, but the fact is America has no central town square media. So everyone is so fragmented and just watching their own thing and so locked in their own belief bubble that for something to happen that is not predicted within your belief bubble, it has to be a conspiracy theory. So I think America is just so fragmented by the media and by people that conspiracy theories are inevitable. And of course, Donald Trump has played on that massively.
That's interesting. Patrick, I mean, the role of conspiracy theories in our politics, we're saying it is less, isn't it? Or did I just kid myself?
No, I think that's true. I'm trying to actually think of a conspiracy theory that has any great purchase here. I think, look, most of them is to do with the royals, right?
Yeah.
Prince Philip killed Princess Diana.
No, so I should say that is a conspiracy
theory.
Yes, not a thing that Patrick Maguire is saying on Times Radio.
That's not what the inquest
Mr.
said.
Ofcom, no.
Look, I'm trying to think, and every time a politician tries to inject a bit of conspiracism into the UK body politic, people tend to think they're a little bit weird. I'd say we're a little bit more resilient on that front. And I don't know why it is. Maybe it's something, innate to the American psyche about distrust of authority. I don't know.
There is a lot of distrust of authority. It is a very, quite recently a pioneer country. And it is a country that was born out of distrust of the monarchy and distrust of leaders. But certainly since the Kennedy assassination, there has been a huge tendency in the American psyche to believe that something's going on that is not being spoken about.
And that polarization, that division, Hadley, do you know Trump voters?
Yes, I do. I do know Trump
Do you know
voters.
many?
I know a handful, and the ones I know don't live very far from New York City. It's not like you have to go down into deep Texas to find Trump voters. There's a huge number of Trump voters who just vote for him because of low taxes, i.e. the wealthy. So people who live in places like Southampton or in the Hamptons, full stop, it's basically the American equivalent of the Cotswolds, all vote for Trump. And that is extremely depressing.
Is it bitter, though? I mean, is it a thing that can be discussed?
No.
Really?
No.
Yeah.
And I've got my parents' friends, those who've retired to Florida, who are still Democrats. They have basically almost had to leave Florida during the election because there's so many Trump voters down there. So, yeah, it's incredibly bitter.
Yeah, so that's another thing that I think most of the time we're kind of spared from here, although we do, of course, dabble with it.